Okay, we're holding now in the next Mishnah, Be'ezah Hashem, B'siyata D'Shmaya. Let's go. Gavaldik, a very important Mishnah. Again, it's so unbelievable how every Mishnah is really a continuation of the previous one. Rav Dustai Bar Yanai Mishum Rabbi Meir Oimer. Okay? Kol ha'shechech dova echad mimishnosai. That if a person forgets something of his learning, Mala olov ha'kosuv, ki'ilu mischayev b'nafshay. It is as if he's mischayev b'nafshay. Yesterday we explained mischayev b'nafshay means what? He's brought death upon himself. Very scary thing. You forget one thing of your learning. Shenem rak hisham l'chor shmor nafshecha ma'oid pentishkach hazedvar mesheiro einecha. So the Torah warns us very clearly from forgetting any of your learning, which means the Mishnah is telling us that if any of you have learnt anything in your entire lifetime and you forget one thing, then basically you chay misa. Mischayev b'nafshay. Okay? Yochel says the Mishnah, I would have thought, afilu tokval of mishnasai. What happens, I would have thought, even if a person is so overwhelmed with his learning, so much and everything, because he's packing so much in, so he's forgetting some of the other stuff. Talmud loima, or pen yasuru, milvavecha, kol yumei chayecha. Right? It says over here, they should be removed from your heart all the days of your life. Ha'einu mischayev b'nafshay ad sheyeshev v'yisirem miliboy. Until you remove them from your heart. So, once again, a very, very scary lashon about Torah. We've been discussing many Mishnayos in this parak about Torah, about how chashuv Torah is, and Torah runs our life. But now it's like you forget one thing, mischayev b'nafshay. What does that mean? How do you understand that? So first of all, on a very, very basic level, there's a Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah explains, and he talks about that this whole Mishnah is discussing someone that's in a specific position of teaching Torah or paskening shaylos. He's a Rav. Why? Because he's in such a position, so he has to constantly go over his learning. So, because if you forget something, then what? He's going to do badly to his psak, or to his teaching, or to his talmidim. So Rabbeinu Yonah learns, you cannot just rely on your memory, you have to constantly do chazorah. And chazorah, as we know, is a very, very important thing. Most of us are familiar with the Gemara in Sanhedrin, right? Sadi Tesel and Aleph. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says that if a person doesn't do chazorah, it's like a farmer that sows but does not reap. What does that mean? You know what that means? A farmer that sows but does not reap. That means, imagine if you had a field, and you're David. You have a field, and you're going to make fruits and vegetables there. So you spend months and months and months preparing the ground, plowing. You sow the seeds in. It's a whole procedure, right? We'll learn it a little bit more towards Shemitah. And then a couple of months later, all of a sudden you've got these beautiful plants. A couple of years later, beautiful trees, and you just leave everything there to rot. Someone looks at you and says, "What are you doing? You spent so much time and effort in trying to plant everything and to make it plantable and all of a sudden now, enjoy the fruits, enjoy the vegetables, enjoy what you have." Says the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Sadi Tesel and Aleph, that if a person learns and doesn't do chazorah, he's the same. He's the same thing. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shua says that if a person learns and doesn't do chazorah, he's compared to a woman that gives birth to a stillborn child, Rachmana litzlan. A woman had to go through 9 months of pregnancy. It wasn't easy. The baby comes out, not alive. Rachmana litzlan, we should never know. It says the Gemara, that's what it means, chazorah. To constantly go over what we learn, to remember. It's one of the biggest Yitzharas we have. I don't know how many people have such a Yitzhara. I remember Rav Scheinberg. I don't know if he said it or they said it about him or he once said it to people, whatever it was, about the whole thing of, for him, you know how hard it is to open up a daf in Shas, anywhere in Shas, and say, okay, I just did that one. Oh, okay, I know that one. I'll give you an example. Imagine if you would right now sit and learn the first daf, the first mission of Arvei Psochim, 26 times. Right now, 26 times the Mishnah. It's a short Mishnah, it's an easy Mishnah, it's not a hard Mishnah. Everyone here pretty much could say it almost Baal Peh. Imagine right now you did it 26 times. After 5 minutes I'd say, do you want to do that Mishnah? You'd be like, oh no, I don't want to see that Mishnah. So like to Gedolim, every daf in Shas was that way. Every daf in Shas is like, okay, I know this one already, I just did this one I know cold, this one. So it was like a Yitzhara, I have no, what title do you have to sit and learn? For most of us, or maybe I speak for myself, to open up a daf in Shas is geschmack. Even if we did it already, we did it only then, we can do it again now, we can learn a different pshat, we can know it better, we can get it clearer. Chazorah is an amazing thing. So on a very basic level, the Mishnah is discussing someone that is not doing Chazorah. And it's a very important thing. By the way, Chazorah is what gives a person tremendous sipuk in his learning. The Chavetz Chaim writes, do you ever wonder why there's 4 lines of Rashi at the top of every daf in Shas? Chavetz Chaim says, because you have to learn it 4 times, and the Chavetz Chaim continues, and says, if you don't learn everything 4 times, you're not yet to the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. That's a very heavy statement, but the Chavetz Chaim said it. Whenever. Not a day, no. Did you learn it 4 times? Or did you learn it and move on?
Well, you're
that could be any part of Torah. But in other words, this Mishnah that I'm learning now, if you didn't chazar it 4 times, learn it once and chazar it 4 times, then the din is that you're not yet to Talmud Torah. That's a very heavy statement. Right, David? So a person has to realize the first simple step to this Mishnah is chazara. Right? We learn a lot of things, but the Mishnah is telling us how careful we have to be from forgetting. I want to move on to a different idea on this Mishnah, and then we'll move on to one last idea on this Mishnah. There are many things that cause us to forget our learning. It could be that the Mishnah is warning us, especially the end of the Mishnah says, maybe it's not from packing so much in, it's more from the fact of doing something specifically to get rid of your learning. How do you do something to get rid of your learning? So the only thing I can think of is the various times that we have in Chazal to be careful of things that make you forget your learning. Okay? So for example, if you do not wash the Tilis Yadayim when you went to wash the Tilis Yadayim. Or, for example, wiping your hands on your clothing after Nigel Vasa, which is pretty bad. Another thing, for example, is, what's that? You forget your learning, that's terrible. Right? Now, Avada. If you're meant to wash your hands, and you do not wash your hands. In other words, you do something that requires the Netilas Yadayim, and you don't do the Netilas Yadayim. Talmudai Mishtachach says the Chazal, and if you're not a Talmud Chacham, what about that? Okay, say this. A guy doesn't know Torah, so he's not going to forget anything. No, he goes crazy. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Okay. Another example, the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish writes in Kovitz Igeris number 1, Aleph. He says a person has to be very careful from the skulas that cause a person to lose his learning. One of the most famous one, if you look in Masechtas Horos Daf Yud Gimel, the Gemara brings over there many different examples. One of them is eating olives. So there's a shaila, are olives that we have nowadays considered to be included? What if you have olive oil on them? What about the ends of the challah? All of these sorts of things that we're not going to go into all of them at this moment of time, but there are many things that cause a person to have shichacha, and therefore that's why a person should be very, very careful from making sure that he doesn't, have that problem. Okay, so that is, I guess, part 2 of the Mishnah. I want to move on now to more of a Hasidic parish, and that is the Nesiv Shalom, the Heilige Slonimer Rebbe. How he explains, he brings in the beginning of this Mishnah, he brings a beautiful mashal. He says that a yeshiva bacha once came to his Rosh Yeshiva, and he looked really, really sad. He said, Rabbi, I have a problem. I'm just not getting into my learning today. I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. What should I do? I'm not feeling it. So the Shiva looked at the Bacha and said to him, tell me something. Have you thought about Hashem today? Have you thought about Hashem? The Bacha's like, listen, I woke up, mamash a few minutes before Shachris. I ran downstairs, put on my tefillin. I quickly had to, catch up for the minyan, whatever it was. It wasn't easy. I quickly went to breakfast. I washed, obviously, and I ate breakfast, pas Shachris, and then I benched, and then I went quickly to first Seder. I just finished first Seder, but I have no time really to think about Hashem. Right? Now, it's a very, very big problem, this, by the way. Right? You may look at this as a bit weird. What does that mean? I've mentioned to you before, I got a phone call once from a guy from LA who says to me, he went over to a fellow who was a big masmid, 12 to 13 hours a day of learning. He said to him, when was the last time you thought of Hashem? And the guy's like, thought of Hashem? I don't have time for that. I'm busy learning all day. Who has time? Says the Slonimer Rebbe, and we'll see how he gets this from the Mishnah, that many times what happens is we go through the day's activities, we go through life, we're totally oblivious to the real message. We're totally oblivious to the real thing that's going on. So how does the Slonimer Rebbe explain? So he brings the words of the Heilige Maggid in Sefer Pirkei Avos, that he explains the Mishnah with a whole different way. Listen to how he explains the Mishnah. He explains The Mishnah, how we understand it, is to forget one thing of your learning. Whether it be a Mishnah, whether it be a Halacha, a Pasuk in Chumash, whatever it may be. The Slanim Rebbe Nesiv Shalom explains that Dover Echad in the Mishnah is Dover Echad, the matter of one, the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you forget, you could be learning, you could be busy learning, but you forget Dover Echad, you forget the Rebbeinu Shalom. You forget where it's all going to. You forget the direction that it's going to. And that's such an important thing. At the end of the day, we're so busy sometimes in our own lives that we don't realize what's the direction. We talked about this in the 7 Habits. Sometimes we're so busy we don't even think about the goal. It's like my wife went to parents' evening. You guys have never been to parents' evening. But, I mean, in this country, you're not allowed to go to the girls' one. The men are not allowed to go to the girls' one. That's how it is. I can never go. Get nachas or whatever, but all right, that's how it is. Right? So the mothers go. That's how it is. And she went, and a certain teacher said to my wife, as soon as she sat down, she said, oh, I don't know, she doesn't do the test properly, she's obviously not doing chazorah, and she's not learning properly, and because of that she's not getting good grades, and she's not even filling out all the answers. I mean, how's she going to survive in life, and how's she going to survive the next few years of school life in it? My wife looked and says, do you not have anything good to say about my daughter? Have you not thought about the fact that she has good midas? You not thought about the fact that she smiles, that she's happy in life? Isn't that the most important thing in life? Not the grades that she gets and what she does on her test, which is going to get her nowhere in life, but rather how lemaisa she is as a person, and midas tovas and Torah and the Rebbeinu Shalom and Ashkofas HaChaim. She told me that the teacher looked at her with her mouth open, like no one's ever said this to me before. And my wife said to her, obviously my ashkofa and your ashkofa is about good grades, my ashkofa is about Yiddishkeit and the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's all that matters. And sometimes, I don't want to, sometimes we're so busy. We're so busy with, how successful is he? What about, where's the direction? It's a big problem. It's a big problem that, the world that we're living in, everything's looked at results. Who cares? Do you think it makes a difference if my daughter, honestly, I know maybe people attack me for this. It does not bother me if my daughter gets a high or low grade. And that's exactly what my wife said to the teacher. It bothers me nothing. What bothers me, does she have good midas? Does she have derech eretz? Is she going in the right mahalach? Is she a good girl? Did you have nothing good when you saw this girl? All you saw was grades. And because of that, you graded my daughter. You didn't see her midas, you didn't see her happiness, simchas hachaim, her emunah, eshkofa, nothing. That's terrible. Rachman al-Islam, we should never have such a teacher. Rachman al-Islam. That's all they look at. Hashem Yirachim. It bothers me nothing. She can listen to the shit. It doesn't bother me. Halavai. She speaks English. Halavai. I'm not embarrassed. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. What do you mean? But often we do the same thing. We're so busy. We're not even looking. Where's the goal? What's the ikar? That's what the Slonim Rebbe is saying this Mishnah is. You're busy learning. You forgot about the Rebbeinu Shalom. There you are. You're learning 12 hours a day. God? Who? Where's God? Hashem? How does it come into our lives? What do you mean? You benched, you done mincha, you done marv, you done shachwas, you learned, you did everything. How many people, let's ask ourselves. It's not 8 o'clock in the morning. We've already had a few hours of the day. We've done some learning, we've done some davening, we've made brachas. How many times do we think about Hashem? Isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal of learning? Isn't that the goal of Yiddishkeit? Isn't that the goal of every mitzvah? Is at the end of the day, think about the Rebbeinu Shalom. Get closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Says the Slonim Rebbe, that's what it is. The say of Lublin once told his Talmud, Reb Simcha ben Mepshischa, and he said to him, if you ever see me so engrossed in my learning that I basically appear to have momentarily forgotten that the Shekhinah is above me, please tell me. That's what he told his Talmud. One time, Reb Simcha ben noticed that the Sir of Lublin was so involved in a Gemara, that he was so in it, that he was about to remind him, what he was instructed to do, and the Sir looked up and said, don't worry, I remember. And that's what it is. Echad. The echad in this Mishnah, says the Son of Rebbe, is the Rebbeinu Shalom. When a person learns, he has to remember the goal. The goal is what? The Rebbeinu Shalom. And it's a goal for all of our lives. It's a goal for everything we do. Everything we do. Yes, there are steps that we have to do on a practical level to get there. And that might be the learning. And it might be getting married. And it might be having children. It might be working on ourselves. There might be so many things. But at the end of the day, that's the goal. The goal is to obviously work on ourselves to become better people, but ultimately to become closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's what this Mishnah, I think, is an incredible lesson. That so many times we forget about the echad. We're busy learning, but you forget one thing. The one thing is the ikar. And that's very, very important. And everything we do, we should always remember this. That is the ikka. Yes, the other things are important. I'm not putting it down. Everything else is important also. But to remember, at least remember what the ikka is. And don't get sidetracked in life by the non-ikka, by the toffel things. And that makes you feel that you were or were not successful. Success isn't based on your results. Success is not based on how well you do. Onu Amelin Vehema Melin, the Chofetz Chaim famously said, a goy, a tailor, a shoemaker only gets paid when he finishes the shoes. If he doesn't finish the shoes, he ain't going to get paid. It's all very nice. Can you go to a guy who makes, you give him cloth, you say, can you make me a beautiful suit? And you go to him, he says, listen, I worked 16 hours on your suit. It just didn't come out. What can I do? It didn't come out. Can I have the money? You'll laugh in his face. I should give you money. Where's the suit? If there's no end result, it's not going to work. The Rebbe doesn't want the end result from us. He doesn't care about the end result. He just wants us to go along towards the destination and try. To go on the journey, to try the best we can, each one according to his capabilities, each one according to what he can do. And Be'ez Hashem, if we do that, we won't forget the echad, we'll get the goal, and B'siyat Shmaya, we'll get Be'ez Hashem. Okay.